What if the secret to living past 100 has nothing to do with medicine, nothing to do with genetics, and everything to do with what is sitting quietly in your kitchen right now? Researchers have spent decades flying to Japan, interviewing centenarians, analyzing blood samples, and studying villages where people routinely live active, independent lives well into their 90s and beyond. What they keep finding is not a pill, not a procedure, not an expensive protocol. It is food. Specific, humble, ordinary food that Japanese families have been eating for centuries without thinking twice about it. Today I am showing you 16 of those foods. Stay with me because number 8 on this list contains a compound so rare that virtually no other food on earth produces it in meaningful quantities, and cardiologists are only now beginning to understand what it does to your arteries. And number 14 has been studied specifically in the villages of Okinawa where people forget to die, and the research findings genuinely surprised the scientists who went looking. Let's get into it. Here is what most people completely miss when they look at Japanese longevity. It is not one food. It is not one habit. It is a daily pattern, a consistent rhythm of eating specific whole foods that work together across decades to protect the heart, feed the gut, reduce inflammation, and maintain the cellular health that determines how we age. Our great-grandparents understood this intuitively. Modern science is now spending millions of dollars confirming what Japanese grandmothers never needed a study to know. 16 foods, ancient wisdom, the science behind why it works. Let's go. Number 1. Green tea. 4,000 years ago, healers first noticed that people who drank this particular leaf steeped in water seemed to age differently than those who didn't. Japanese culture adopted it, refined it, ritualized it, and made it the foundation of daily life in a way no other culture has matched. Now we know exactly why those ancient observations were accurate. Green tea contains epigallocatechin gallate, one of the most studied antioxidant compounds in modern nutritional science. Epigallocatechin gallate protects cellular DNA from oxidative damage, reduces systemic inflammation, and supports the cardiovascular system through mechanisms researchers are still actively mapping. Population studies consistently show that people who drink 3 to 5 cups of green tea daily have measurably different health outcomes across heart health, cognitive aging, and metabolic function. 3 to 5 cups daily, plain and unsweetened. Not drowned in sugar or milk that binds the antioxidants and dramatically reduces absorption. The 4,000-year daily habit that modern science keeps validating every single year. Number 2. Natto. This is the food that most people outside Japan encounter once, recoil from, and never try again. Sticky, stringy, intensely pungent fermented soybeans eaten cold over warm rice every single morning by millions of Japanese people. And here is the number that stops researchers cold. 1 serving of natto contains approximately 850 micrograms of vitamin K2 in its MK7 form, the most bioavailable form known to science. The next highest food source delivers a fraction of that. No other food on Earth comes close. Vitamin K2 directs calcium precisely where aging bodies need it into bones and muscle tissue, and away from arterial walls, where calcium deposits contribute directly to cardiovascular disease. Studies link regular K2 intake to improved bone density, reduced fracture risk, and measurably better arterial health in aging populations. The fermentation also delivers complete bioavailable protein and feeds the gut microbiome with beneficial bacteria that modern research increasingly connects to immune function and healthy aging. Mix with soy sauce, mustard, and green onions over warm rice. Give it 3 honest attempts before deciding. The people eating it every morning are living longer than almost anyone else ever recorded. Number 3. Miso. Long before refrigeration existed, Japanese families solved a fundamental survival problem. How do you preserve protein through months of harsh winter when fresh food is unavailable? The answer was miso. Fermented soybeans, salt, and koji culture aged together in great wooden barrels for months, sometimes years, developing extraordinary depth of flavor alongside a complex of beneficial compounds that no fresh food can replicate. What traditional Japanese families created out of pure preservation necessity, modern nutritional science now recognizes as one of the most gut-supportive fermented foods available anywhere. The living cultures in properly made miso support microbiome diversity, and gut microbiome health is now understood to influence everything from immune function to mental clarity to the inflammatory status underlying virtually every chronic disease of aging. Always stir miso into warm broth rather than boiling. High heat destroys the living cultures that took months to develop. The ancient preservation method that accidentally became one of the most powerful daily health practices ever discovered. Number 4. Shiitake mushrooms. For centuries in Japan, shiitake mushrooms were considered precious enough to present to emperors as formal gifts. They were cultivated on oak logs using methods passed down through farming families for generations, a practice home gardeners still continue today. That royal reverence was not arbitrary. Shiitake are rich in B vitamins, minerals, and beta-glucans, complex polysaccharides that researchers have studied intensively for their effects on immune system activation. But here is the detail most people never hear. When dried in direct sunlight, shiitake mushrooms generate significant vitamin D, chronically deficient in most Western adults, and directly connected to immune function, bone health, and the inflammatory processes that accelerate aging. The drying process also concentrates all active compounds, making dried shiitake more medicinally potent than fresh. Sauté in sesame oil with garlic, add to broths, or rehydrate dried shiitake in warm water, and use both the mushrooms and the mineral-rich soaking liquid. The gift fit for emperors belongs in your weekly cooking. Number 5. Edamame. Young soybeans harvested before they harden, eaten fresh, boiled in salted water, popped straight from the pod. For centuries, a beloved Japanese summer tradition tied to the harvest season. But here is what makes edamame nutritionally extraordinary beyond its simplicity. It is one of very few plant foods delivering complete protein alongside leucine, the specific amino acid that triggers muscle protein synthesis, the biological signal that tells aging muscle cells to stop breaking down and start rebuilding. Without enough leucine, that rebuilding process simply never begins, regardless of how much total protein you eat. Edamame also delivers significant magnesium, folate, and vitamin K2 simultaneously. Frozen edamame is equally nutritious as fresh, steam directly from frozen, salt lightly, eat from the pod, or add shelled beans to rice and salads. The centuries-old summer tradition that happens to be one of the most complete plant proteins available anywhere on Earth. Number 6. Wakame seaweed. Coastal Japanese communities gathered seaweed from rocks at low tide for thousands of years, drying it in sun, storing it for winter, building it into the foundation of daily cooking until this ocean plant became as ordinary as any land vegetable. And those coastal communities showed health patterns that repeatedly drew researchers' attention from around the world. Wakame is one of the richest natural sources of iodine available from any food, essential for thyroid function, which regulates metabolism, energy, and the hormonal balance that determines how efficiently we age. It also contains fucoxanthin, a unique carotenoid found almost exclusively in brown seaweed that has been studied for its effects on metabolism, and fucoidan, examined by researchers for its anti-inflammatory and immune-modulating properties. Add dried wakame to miso soup, rehydrate and dress with rice vinegar and sesame oil as a simple salad, or crumble nori sheets over rice and vegetables daily. A modest daily serving, the ocean's medicine hiding in plain sight. Number 7. Tofu. Buddhist monks in Japan built entire culinary traditions around a single pale block of pressed soybeans. Not from poverty, but from wisdom accumulated over generations of observing what different foods did to aging bodies over decades. Tofu delivers all 9 essential amino acids in a complete protein profile alongside isoflavones. Plant compounds studied for their effects on hormonal health, bone density, and cardiovascular markers, particularly in women after menopause. The populations in Japan with highest regular tofu consumption have been specifically studied for cardiovascular outcomes and bone health in aging, with results that consistently interest longevity researchers. Tofu absorbs whatever flavors surround it completely, from silky and delicate in clear broths to firm and golden when pan-fried in sesame oil with soy sauce and ginger. The monks who built entire cuisines around this single ingredient understood something that took modern nutritional science centuries to confirm. Number 8. Daikon radish. Here is the giant white root most Americans push to the side of their plate without knowing what they are leaving behind. Daikon can grow as large as your forearm, appearing in Japanese cuisine in virtually every context. Grated fresh alongside grilled and fried foods, simmered into hearty winter soups, pickled into beloved preserved vegetables eaten daily. Traditional Japanese medicine understood that daikon aided digestion of heavy and oily foods, and modern nutritional analysis has confirmed the presence of digestive enzymes, including amylase and protease, that begin breaking down starches and proteins before food even reaches the stomach. Daikon is also rich in vitamin C and sulfur compounds with documented antimicrobial properties. The practice of eating a digestive enzyme-rich food alongside heavier meals, as Japanese cuisine has always done, is something modern gastroenterology is now investigating seriously. Grate fresh over any rich food. Simmer in broth. Pickle in rice vinegar. The humble white root that Japanese cuisine never abandons for very good reason. If what you are learning today is shifting how you think about food and aging, hit that like button right now. It helps this information reach the people who need it most. Subscribe if you haven't. Number 9. Sweet potato, particularly the purple Okinawan variety. On the island of Okinawa, home to one of the highest concentrations of people, over 100 ever documented anywhere on Earth. One food once made up the majority of daily caloric intake. Not rice, not fish, the purple sweet potato. Researchers who traveled specifically to study Okinawan longevity kept encountering this humble root at the center of elderly people's daily diets. People in their 90s and hundreds still active, mentally sharp, and living fully independently. The purple pigment signals high anthocyanin content. The antioxidant class studied for effects on cardiovascular health, cognitive aging, and cellular DNA protection. Purple sweet potato also delivers significant fiber-supporting gut health, vitamin A for immune function, and a low glycemic index providing sustained energy without the blood sugar spikes that accelerate aging at the cellular level. Bake whole, steam and mash, or simmer into soups and stews. The cornerstone of the most studied longevity diet ever documented. Number 10. Burdock root. Japanese home cooks use burdock root so routinely it barely registers as special, and most of the Western world has forgotten it entirely. Gobo is a long, slender, earthy root with a nutty flavor that holds beautifully in simmered dishes and stir-fries, valued in both Japanese and Chinese traditional medicine for centuries for blood-purifying and digestive-supporting properties. Modern nutritional analysis reveals significant concentrations of inulin, a prebiotic fiber that selectively feeds the beneficial gut bacteria responsible for regulating immune function, reducing systemic inflammation, and producing the short-chain fatty acids that support the gut lining's integrity. A healthy gut lining is now understood to be one of the most important determinants of systemic inflammation, and systemic inflammation is one of the most powerful drivers of accelerated aging across every body system simultaneously. Slice thin, soak briefly in water with lemon, then sauté in sesame oil with carrots in the traditional kinpira preparation. The forgotten root that Japanese grandmothers never stopped using because it always worked. Number 11. Buckwheat, soba. Despite its name, buckwheat contains no wheat and no gluten. Botanically unrelated to grain and closer to rhubarb than any cereal crop. Soba noodles made from buckwheat have been eaten across Japan for centuries as the everyday food of working people, affordable, filling, and deeply sustaining through long, physically demanding days. Buckwheat's specific nutritional distinction lies in rutin, a bioflavonoid found in significant quantities in virtually no other commonly eaten food. Rutin strengthens capillary walls, improves circulation, and has been studied specifically for blood pressure effects and the small vessel health that deteriorates with age, contributing to cardiovascular decline over time. On New Year's Eve, Japanese families eat long soba noodles as a deliberate symbol of longevity, the unbroken strands representing a long and healthy life. The symbolism was chosen because the food itself had been sustaining long, healthy lives for centuries before anyone knew why. Cook in broth for a warming winter meal, or serve cold with dipping sauce in summer. Number 12. Umeboshi. So intensely sour and salty that first encounters produce an involuntary physical reaction. Umeboshi are pickled Japanese plums that have been carried, eaten, and valued across Japan for over 1,000 years. Samurai carried them on military campaigns as portable energy food believed to prevent fatigue and support recovery during long, demanding journeys. Traditional medicine used them for digestive upset and as natural preservatives inside rice balls during times before refrigeration existed. The organic acids produced during fermentation, particularly citric acid, have documented antimicrobial properties and have been studied for effects on fatigue recovery pathways. One tiny plum alongside a meal, never a large amount given the concentrated sodium. This is ancient precision dosing, the understanding that some of the most powerful medicines work most effectively in very small, consistent daily amounts over a lifetime. Number 13. Sesame, particularly black sesame, scattered so routinely through Japanese cuisine that people eating it barely notice. Sesame seeds accumulate a nutritional significance their tiny size entirely belies. Black sesame, in particular, has been valued in Japanese and Chinese traditional medicine for centuries as a food that supports kidney health, nourishes hair and skin, and specifically promotes longevity in old age. Modern analysis reveals sesamin and sesamolin, unique lignans found almost exclusively in sesame E, with documented antioxidant activity and effects on inflammatory signaling pathways connected to aging. Black sesame also delivers concentrated anthocyanins alongside significant calcium, magnesium, zinc, and iron in a single small seed. 1 tablespoon of ground black sesame over rice, noodles, or vegetables daily. The longevity seed hiding in plain sight on every Japanese plate for centuries. Number 14. Konjac. One of the most remarkable foods on this list precisely because what makes it valuable is largely what it lacks. Konjac comes from the root of an Asian plant processed into noodles, blocks, and jellies composed almost entirely of water and glucomannan, a soluble fiber with some of the most impressive research behind any single dietary compound in modern nutritional science. Glucomannan absorbs water and expands dramatically inside the digestive system, creating profound satiety for virtually no caloric intake whatsoever. Researchers have found glucomannan measurably improves blood sugar regulation after meals, reduces LDL cholesterol, and supports the gut microbiome through its prebiotic fiber activity. Traditional Japanese cooks turn this unusual root into an everyday ingredient, understanding through centuries of careful observation that it's satisfied without burdening the body, a quality they valued deeply for aging people. Always eat konjac products with plenty of water and chew thoroughly, the low-calorie tradition that modern fiber science has completely validated. Number 15. Fermented vegetables, tsukemono. Every traditional Japanese meal includes some form of tsukemono, pickled and fermented vegetables ranging from lightly salt-pressed cucumber to deeply fermented daikon, cabbage, and ginger aged for months. This is not a side dish. This is the gut health foundation of the entire Japanese dietary pattern. Fermentation produces beneficial bacteria, organic acids, and enzymatic compounds that continuously support and diversify the gut microbiome. And a diverse, well-fed gut microbiome is now understood by researchers to be one of the most significant determinants of healthy aging across every body system, from immune function to cognitive health to the inflammatory status underlying virtually every chronic disease of later life. Traditional Japanese cooks fermented vegetables not as a health strategy but as a preservation necessity. And in solving the practical problem of winter food storage, they accidentally built one of the most gut-supportive daily dietary habits in all of human history. A small portion of fermented vegetable alongside every main meal, every single day. Number 16. Hojicha, roasted green tea. We began with green tea. We end with its evening counterpart. Hojicha is made by roasting green tea leaves over high heat, transforming the flavor from fresh and grassy into something warm, nutty, and deeply comforting, while simultaneously reducing caffeine content to levels appropriate for children, elderly people, and anyone wanting the benefits of tea without any sleep disruption. The roasting process creates pyrazines, aromatic compounds that research suggests have calming effects on the nervous system. Hojicha remains rich in antioxidants and catechins in a form and flavor that makes consistent daily consumption completely effortless for people who find regular green tea too stimulating or grassy. And consistent daily consumption over a lifetime, not occasional dramatic use, is precisely how all 16 of these Japanese longevity foods actually work. One warm cup in the evening, plain and unrushed. The perfect close to a day of eating with genuine wisdom. 16 Japanese superfoods, centuries of living wisdom confirmed one study at a time by modern science, and every single one of them accessible to you right now, in your grocery store, your Asian market, or your own kitchen garden for almost nothings. If this video gave you something genuinely valuable today, hit that like button right now. Subscribe if you haven't already. Ring that notification bell. Leave a comment below. Which of these 16 Japanese foods surprised you most? See you in the next one.